You're welcome. Welcome back to the show. You're still watching GH Today here on GHOne Television, and it's time for the breakfast review segment. My guests are in the studio. There are quite a lot of things to talk about. The Ghana Statistical Service is telling us that over 7 million Ghanaians are poor. Yeah, that's what the Ghana Statistical Service is telling us. And, Parliament's Select Committee on Local Government is questioning the effectiveness of government policies in addressing the situation. I mean, if there are so many social interventions and things that are being put in place for people to be lifted out of poverty, why are over 7 million Ghanaians poor? So that's one of the issues that we're going to talk about. Also, the president of the National House of Chiefs is cautioning traditional leaders against the endorsement of politicians. But, I mean, is this call really going to go anywhere? Is it going to stop traditional leaders from endorsing politicians and their preferred candidates, among other things? We'll talk a little bit, about that, among other things. Do stay tuned. All of that is coming up on the Breakfast Review. My guests are seated here in the studio from the National Democratic Congress. It's been a while since we saw him here in the studio. We're very happy to have him here this morning. Ambassador Sampi Ali is here. He is president of the NDC's Professionals Forum. Ambassador, good morning.
Good morning, Lantam. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Oh, we are managing.
It's been a while.
Well, we do other things, so...
And what have you been up
when
to?
Your call comes through, we honor them.
Well, we're happy that you've honored our invitation this morning. It's good to see you in the studio today. Also here from the New Patriotic Party is Nana Fredia Achimango Foriata. He's the board chairman also of the National Theatre. Nana, good morning.
Morning, sir.
How are you doing today?
By God's grace, all is well.
And it's good to see you in the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. Michael Safo Kantanka is here as well. He is with the Movement for Change and also the Alliance for Revolutionary Change, because there's an alliance now. He is one of their spokespersons. Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Welcome.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
By the grace of God. Fine.
It's good to see you. And
same here, bro.
Thank you very much for joining us here in the studio today.
Thank you.
Yes, and getting into the issues this morning, right? The Ghana Statistical Service is telling us that there are over 7 million people who are poor. And there are people who are raising questions about this. I mean, if there are so many intervention policies that have been put in place to uplift people out of, or to uplift people from poverty, why do we have this poverty figure in this country? I'll begin with you on this one, Michael, on this particular one. Let me ask of your initial thoughts, especially to the fact that, there is Parliament Select Committee on on local governments, questioning the effectiveness of government's, policies in uplifting people out of poverty.
Thank you, Lantam. Good morning once again to your viewers. This report doesn't come in as a surprise to some of us, because these are classical evidence of the issues we've been raising. The reason some of us are going about, all out trying to project this whole Alan Chermati and the Movement for Change and the Alliance for Revolutionary Change agenda is to be able to address these issues. It gives a first-hand impression of the level of ineptitude and cluelessness Ghana has seen in the past 32 years under the NPP and the NDC. So it makes perfect sense for the Parliament Select Committee to begin to question, the veracity and then the effectiveness of, all these social interventions. If they are really happening, then why are our people still deprived? And I like it when they use the word deprivation. I took the pen to look at the meaning on Oxford Dictionary. The multidimensional poverty index, what it does is it assesses deprivation. Now look at how deprivation is defined. It says the lack or denial of something considered to be a necessity. So clearly you get to know this is not something that happened naturally. It is an order of people denying the Ghanaian people, their due share of the national cake. It is as a result of embezzlement, technical incompetence of the people we have in the helm of affairs, mismanagement, corruption, cluelessness. They just don't seem to know what is at stake and what we should even be focusing our energies on. Misplaced priorities. You have a man like Alhaji Bawumia, who was appointed on the merit as an economic messiah, now doing a whole, politics, a whole diversionary politics that takes the focus of the economy that should be fixed. For the past 32 years, mismanaged affairs so much so that, you can't really point to any gains, in aggregate terms in the lives of our people, in terms of, education, health, the indicators are there. And it's worrying. Child mortality, cooking fuel, drinking water, electricity, employment, housing, insurance, overcrowding, school attainment, school attendance, toilet. These are the multidimensional issues that are being assessed. So these are the indicators they looked at. Yeah. Now, if you have a country with these issues, at the fore, very crucial to deal with. And in the same vein, you have the man, the single person the president, who considered that he is not an economic wizard. So he's bringing someone, an economist, to help him manage the economy. And now this man is talking about things happening in the cloud systems, the moon. It should tell you how bad, our political class see us. You travel along the highways all the way to the north or any other part, just outside of Accra, and you are greeted with, impoverishment. And all we get from these guys is English, grammar. They just come and, give us empty rhetorics. You have people going to Sabunzongo to promise them toilets. They couldn't deliver. And these same people present themselves again as options for us to vote for them. Look, it gets me sick. When I'm talking about poverty and these things, look, I'm very passionate. Because on countless occasions, I've been at the receiving end of, attacks by people who were just trying to live or earn a living. On this highway, this Liberation Road in the night, around 10 p.m. the traffic stops red, you stop, and some people will pull over with knives at you. The level of insecurity in the country, it's crazy. I was jogging some 2 months ago at Westlands, my neighborhood. Someone pulls over, takes my phone, pulls a knife at me, pushes me off the road. I tried to chase him, but I decided, no, I won't go. Why do we have these incidents? It's because, look, the level of inequality just by owning a car puts you at risk in Ghana now. They see you driving, they think you are rich. They see you wearing spectacles, they think you are rich. They see you speaking English, they think you are rich. And so you automatically become an enemy to the poor. Why are we here? Because of the kind of leaders we vote for, because of the kind of people who present themselves as options with the answers. And they've had the chance. In 32 years, we've seen them. Stalin in the Soviet region, Soviet times, presents a very simple analogy of what we've had. He picked a fowl, plucked all the feathers off the fowl to the point the fowl was bleeding. And then to demonstrate how simple-minded it gets for a desperate person, he decides to throw drops of corn. Then the fowl that the guy has inflicted so much pain on gets up and starts feeding on the droplets, towards him. As if he's not the one who has caused him the pain. That's what we have with our political class. It's getting to election. The John Mohammeds who have failed us, the Baomias who have failed us, they are going to come with droplets. They are going to give you bags. They are going to present you 24-hour economy. What is that? What is that? These are empty cliches they are throwing out there. They don't even know how they are going to ensure these policies, are executed. No wonder he's asking for a honeymoon. Dr. Baomia comes, he will come and give you money's populist reactions to your dire needs just to be able to get your vote. Your MPs who have failed are going to come again. And these are the issues. Look at the number of people in poverty gaps. How did we get here? There's a structural problem. And that's why I'm happy to even invite everyone to this, the launch of the Great Transformational Plan. I happen to be a delegate for the Citizens Compact we did last week. I saw the work professors, technocrats and all that have produced. If I compare that to what Alan Chermatin alone has done with the Great Transformational Plan, oh boy, I love the man. He has the answers to Ghana's problems. He's looking at how to fix the economy, how to change our behaviors as a people, how to, rally everyone behind a national development plan, how to unite us against the divisive politics we've seen in the past 32 years. As MPP is in power now, it will shock you how many NDC people have been so poor in the past 7 years.
But you talk about, the poverty that we experience, and obviously it's nothing to write home about. If about 7.3 million people,
it doesn't make sense,
are experiencing multi-dimensional poverty and facing deprivation in healthcare, education, employment, living conditions, and all of that. It's a problem. And you talk about our leaders having failed us over the last 32 years. And then you talk about Alan Chermatin and a great transformational plan. How would you respond to somebody who will say, well, talking about the leaders who have been there for the past 32 years, Alan Chermatin has been one of them. He's Ghana's longest serving trade minister. He was supposed to spearhead a particular program which was supposed to create employment. And, when you look at the statistics, unemployment is one of the main issues. Unemployment contributes the most to multidimensional poverty index at 32.6%. So how is he not part of the problem when it comes to where we are now as a country with regard to poverty, when he was supposed to be one of the people who's supposed to help lift people out of poverty? Trade Minister under GHOne, Trade Minister under President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. What is there to show for it?
Thank you. So you've invited me to discuss the achievements of Alan Chermatin.
I'm not saying discuss the achievements of Alan Chermatin.
Really,
I'm saying how is he not a part of the problem?
Yeah, and I'm going to answer it by highlighting
do
what
that
he's
in a few minutes for me. Let me come to
all
you.
Right, sure. So Alan is a distinguished man. He's lived all his years, unblemished. You can't find faults with what he did. Everybody had their assignment, their terms of reference, terms of engagement in government. And you saw it with the introduction of the presidential special initiatives. As we speak now, the biggest garment factory in Ghana, Dignitary Garments, is Alan Chermatin's creation. They employ over 5,000 people. He was not president. He didn't have executive authority. But these are the things he did. He saw that, look, Malaysia is earning over 20 billion annually from oil palm alone. And so what did Alan do? He said, let's diversify our economy. He introduced the PSIs under President Kufuor with this oil palm as one of the anchor projects. What happens? They ran it down. They mismanaged it to the point they've sold our oil palm industry to a company in Nigeria just last month. What did Alan do again? Alan is the brain behind this automobile industry, which is supposed to create that enabling environment for our technical guys to have on-hands experience and employment. Alan is the same person. Everybody takes FPAC and Ponsa FA pharmaceuticals. Under Empretech, which he started in the early 90s, he was able to boost the activities of industries, including these pharmaceuticals. If you've heard of FPAC, you've heard of Neat Fufu, all these are creations of...
So essentially, I'm trying to say that he has a track record, and so he's not a part of the problem.
He hasn't
been a part of the problem
of
leadership.
He's only a part if you are going to look at association with the people who were supposed to take certain decisions, because it's a joint, government is joint business. There's a president, there's a cabinet, and then Alan was one of them.
Yes.
But he saw they were not working in his interest, which is the nation's interest, so he stepped out.
Okay.
If it was working, he wouldn't stay in there.
Okay.
He saw they were corrupt, there was so much arrogance of power, they were not the people who worked according to laws, and so he left. Okay. He wouldn't be part of a lawless group.
Very well. Nana Frudia, let me bring you in now. I mean, 24.3% of Ghanaians, that's over 7.31 million people, are experiencing multi-dimensional poverty. They are facing deprivations in healthcare, in unemployment, in education, living conditions. It's a serious problem. And nearly half, which is 43.8% of those in multi-dimensional poverty, experience severe poverty, and it's a problem. People are poor. People are struggling to make ends meet. And today, people would say the economy is not making things any better. Is that not an indictment on the government, which came and promised that they were going to make sure they put in place measures to make people's living conditions and lives better?
Well, quickly, let me get one Safu Kantanka problem out of the way. Mr. Safu Kantanka, every time on this show, since we started meeting, keeps changing the reason why Mr. Chemanting left the NPP. He creates new reasons and not what was on the table. And I think that the public needs to note that. Because what everybody knows is that Mr. Chemanting made it very clear that he was not happy with the turnout of the primaries for presidential candidacy. And he left. Suddenly now, we're hearing things about issues of corruption and other. Have you ever heard Mr. Chemanting say those things?
Yes.
You're not being talked to. Lantam is the one.
No, you're responding to what I said.
You can wait for Lantam to call you. Have you ever heard Mr. Chemanting stand in public and say, Nana Kufuor, Mr. Kufuor, the corrupt things were going on? Ever. We need to be careful about the kinds of things we like to say. Careful you don't spoil long-term relationships that the likes of Mr. Chemanting have built for themselves by your eagerness to please, or I don't know what it is you seek to do. The question on the table, Lantam, to your thing, as far as I'm concerned, when I read the article, has nothing to do with politics. Nothing. Because all the statistics provided are supposed to give you a big picture of where we are.
But how has it got nothing to do with politics?
Because we're talking about
elected
the statistics
leaders at the helm of affairs who are supposed to deal with these problems. How has it got nothing to do with politics?
The statistics were from 2021. You didn't say that. It's from 2021.
Yes.
You didn't say that. The statistics didn't say that this is because of recent governance issues. You don't have comparative analysis to be able to access 1962 or 72 or 82. So how do we now partisanize it and suddenly it's any... I mean, even if it was the NDC, trust me, this is the question I'd ask you. Because there's a fundamental problem we must resolve. And if you believe that mentioning a party color is where we'll resolve it, I'm telling you, Lantam, 10 years from now, you'll come and discuss this problem and be saying the same things, and you'll have people like him saying the kind of things he says. It's happened before. This, first of all, they're talking about multi-dimensional issues.
Yes.
No. The depth of that is not a 5-minute comment that requires, oh, but as for my party, we've done well. If you like, go on, I'm not interested. Because it will not answer the question. Those poor people, I don't even know who they vote for. So, how is there a solution in my saying that, oh, we've done this and we've done that? Is that the real true answer to the question? So, for example, I look at these things from, my first question becomes cultural. So what's our measure for poverty? That's one thing, my question. As opposed to what are the statistical service people using to measure this poverty? That's one of the things I would ask myself. Then two, on the ground, if you picked out, let's say, you try to pick up maybe 5 families, and when you look at the report, they're talking about different places.
Yeah.
The highest one is the Savannah region. But there are different places that have suffered. If you sampled one from even 5 of the places, and you did the basics, when it shows you that, is it showing you, for example, that they don't have access to land, to farm? Is it that they don't have access to the basic amenities and that maybe those of us in Accra take for granted? Water, electricity, school, those things.
All of these are factors.
Good.
All of these are factors.
Now,
that
when
were considered.
when you go into that space, what is causing it? When you go into that, then you begin to ask, you see, we're in a vicious cycle of all kinds of problems. We take one and then make it big, then we forget the other. Then by the time it's time to look at the other, it's grown exponentially and in different directions. Now you're going to go pick, and we do that because of politics. We do that because of politics. And so you have planning going crazy. As for me, I'll tell you straight, I don't think it is a political problem. Because you're going to get caught up in people saying, I did better than the next. Meanwhile, those people have suffered all this.
Yeah, but
so, and you see,
but doesn't the politics come in, Nana, when, a government, or should I say a political party campaigns and says, there are a lot of people who are poor.
Yeah.
When we come into office, we are going to do A, B, C, D to make sure that we lift people out of poverty. And then there is a government. Government essentially is supposed to solve the problems of people and make their lives better.
Supposed to create,
so if there is a government, the government is supposed to address this particular issue, isn't it?
Yeah. So for me, the reason this is not the answer is because the question posed, the article, is not addressing political ineptness or whatever. It's addressing the facts on the ground.
Yes.
And I think that when you want to resolve things, it is after appreciating the facts on the ground, appreciating it. And your listeners, for example, cannot have appreciated it from the narrative that my brother has given. Even mine is, I can argue, I can confidently admit that it is not even a quarter of what should cover the issue. And that's because I'm not an expert in it. Now, when you've understood the fundamentals, what are the things that go into all of this, then now you begin to proffer ideas. And it is on that level that now you start raising the political question. Do we fully appreciate the information that has been given us? It's just easy to say we have 7.3 million poor people. It's easy to say, really. The 30 out of 7.3 out of it leaves you what 22.7 million people. If you like turn the cameras and ask your cameramen whether they think they are rich. I mean, let's be truthful and realistic with ourselves and try and truly find solutions to these problems. When eventually we've understood it. Now, when a politician stands up and I say, Nana Fredia says, Dr. Baumia has solutions to this problem because based on X, Y, Z, he's proposing these solutions. Then it's easy for you to probe me and see whether I'm telling the truth. And therefore, whether I'm giving you the right ideas to a solution. I don't know, but I think we do ourselves damage. The real issues on here, Lantam, and I'll wrap up with that. It's telling us very clearly how we should analyze our situation. And that's from the bottom up. It's from the bottom up. If you look at it from the top down, you'll assume that you have all the answers. And it doesn't work. I, for example, think one of the solutions is a strengthened local government system. Mm-hmm. That is why, and here's the politics, that is why, for example, Akufo-Addo proposed that let's try and create more access to development through a stronger decentralization system, i.e. create more regions, i.e. vote for your executives, your mayors,
your chief executives.
Mm-hmm. Then now it allows people to focus on that person, that area, their resources, and are able to stake a claim on why this has been done or that hasn't been done. I think that it begins to solve the problem. It's a bottom-up solution thing. And that's how we should want things to be done. Again, if this is then a political thing, this is what I would say. When Akufo-Addo proposed that we should vote for the chief executives, what happened? We all saw what happened. He had to scuttle the thing because he wanted consensus from the political wielders. The political wielders.
I mean, everybody agreed in principle that they should be voted for. The contention was whether it should be partisan or non-partisan. But in principle, everybody agreed that they should be voted for. But there were those who felt that it should be non-partisan, and the president felt that no, it should be along partisan lines.
Because that was going to be the truth. But for me, the fundamental principle was what happened. Whether it was this way or that, what happened? At least give it a chance. What happened? We didn't. We've decentralized, and out of the decentralization, look at what's coming out. Now it's more focused. You've got the Savannah area. Savannah was part of which region before that? It was part of Northern region. Northern region was the biggest of the three regions up north. Now so it's focused in on that. So now what do you do next? What is not being done? What has been done? What should be done? Then we start getting there. That's what I'm telling you, Lantam, last comment. When I get there, Savannah, or to any of these other places, they mentioned Asokwa, Ashanti region, other places. You think that when the person needs support for business, I'll see the person wearing an MPP color before I decide whether the person deserves it. So if we want to think through these things, let's lay out the real, true questions, lay out the issues. Then now let's hear the ideas. And when you get to the ideas is where the politics comes.
Ambassador,
I'm glad it's this information. I've never been drawn to this information before. Mm-hmm. It's good to know it.
Yeah. Ambassador, let me bring you in now, into the conversation, and hear what you've got to say about this, these statistics of people who are poor, multidimensionally poor.
Like anybody else, I think a political banter may not solve the problem we have. And I don't intend to politicize this discussion. But it will be enough for me to state that every government is elected to solve problems and not to create problems. So if your policies that do not solve the problem, then you have to revise the policies. Poverty is not a commodity you buy from the shelves. Poverty is a creation of systems. And then until you know what has caused the poverty, you cannot address them. So you'll find out that every government comes out with various policies attempting or intending to resolve a certain societal problem. My friend, we didn't come here to debate about my manifesto and what it means. But one day, if I had have the chance of meeting you again, I would cure your lack of misunderstanding of the
I take exception.
No.
Please.
Wait, okay. I thought you were going to.
About his country.
I thought I would draw that. Let me restate it. I'm saying that when I have the chance of meeting him again, the things he said about the 24-hour economy gave me the impression that he does not fully appreciate what the policy is about. And I will try to explain to him what it is about. And in doing so, technically we are curing a certain problem, isn't it?
He's got a disease and you want to cure it.
No, it's not all diseases. Not cure. Sometimes we cure mischief. You see, Lantam, creation of regions has proven that it is not per se the solution to poverty eradication. Because one of the regions that we created as a country is Savannah, which has been identified as the poorest. So therefore, if you want to do analysis of resolving that, you may not have to cite the creation of a region. If we want to know the effect of the creation of the regions on this country, what you do a proper cost-benefit analysis and see that. What we have before us today, this report, is that 7-point-something million Ghanaians are poor. That's the stark reality. Whether we take it from the top or from the bottom, that's the stark reality. Unless we have cause to doubt the integrity of the data that is being presented to us. See, I have said that poverty is a creation and not something that you can buy. So a government comes to power, and after 7 years, the scorecard is that unemployment is this, inflation is that, currency depreciation is this, and all the so-called fundamentals are not pointing out in the right direction. Then somebody would have to answer why we are facing this dire statistics. All right? I will then look at what policies we have run for the past years as a country. I'm not blaming a government is trying to do something, but as a country, what policies we have allowed to be implemented on us and why we are where we are. So, for example, if you are talking about food inflation being that high, the question rationally to ask is, what have we been doing as a country to resolve food inflation? You see, Burkina Faso, the president, the military junta, which we were trying to mobilize people to go and remove from office. Upon coming into office, you know what they have done? They have imported tractors, agricultural implements. Let us change government, and the next government, its first import will be importing land cruisers, right? Building bigger and taller offices, right? Changing staff here and there. That will be our priority. That will be the priority of, and that has been the case. Does it solve poverty problem? You have a bank or a collection of banks, and we as a country decide that what, because it is Nana Sam and Asafoye SAFU who are managing it, and they have mismanaged it. Granted, without admitting that they have mismanaged it. Our package is to dissolve all the banks. All right? And every situation is multidimensional. So apart from the corruption and inefficiency of the so-called managers, we have other dimensions like what will happen to the staff? What will happen to the economy? What will happen to the problems that the banks were resolving? And you will find out that the net effect of this banks, which we as a country, we decided to spend 25 billion in collapsing, has created unemployment. True of us, has created unemployment. The people who may have been accused or have been accused of mismanaging, taking people's money and not giving them, only one of them is in jail. The rest are all out there. Then you intend to solve food inflation. You implement a program called Planting for Food and what? Jobs. I'm only citing this, not as I'm saying this because I say that these are the policies we have implemented as a country. Right? Whether it was MPP or NDC or whoever implemented it, it's the program we have implemented, contrasting that to the Burkinabe situation. So we spent over 600 million or thereabout on planting for food. 1 year after the expiration of that program, tomato, one ball of, either a ball or whatever we call it, 1 unit of tomato. 1 unit of tomato goes to five cedis. And to exhibit that we were doing something good, our previous minister had to get us to go and queue at ministry to go and buy plantains, when plantains were not part of the planting for food and jobs. I am saying that the policies brought up by the government and the acceptance or acquiescence of the citizens may have contributed to all these challenges that have been enumerated herein. All right? So, for example, you decide that instead of buying tractors and doing something for the country, we decide that we have to build a church for God. And the last time I checked, God does no longer live in the moon. Because when we were children, we say, Yankopon is raw. Do you remember that? Or you are too young to know that?
Yankopon was raw.
Yankopon not.
Yes,
all those things. And we said, but science has proven that there are several universes, on and on and on. My pet program is Voyager 2, 1 and 2, looking at where they are now, showing that there are countless universes. So our small attempt or effort to build God a house is not a solution to God's accommodation problem. How much did we spend as a country? How much did we spend? When we could have spent such money in doing the right things.
So do I hear you agreeing with Michael here that it's a leadership problem?
I'm not talking about leadership program. I'm talking about,
because essentially it's
policy
got to do with
options. I'm
exactly,
talking about policy options
and who implemented the policies.
Oh, please don't take it out from my mind. Policy options. I haven't come to leadership yet. He may have decided to look at the problem from leadership. I'm looking at it from policy options.
Yeah, but the policies emanated from.
I will come to that. So don't worry. Don't worry. Lantam, I think you should know me by now. That's a policy choice. That instead of building, doing farms and other things, we as the people decide to build a cathedral. And these are the results of some of it. If we have identified that housing is part of the problem, housing is part of the problem, isn't it? The money we spent on the cathedral could have built several Rwandan houses. You know the Rwandan, what do you call it? Affordable, the real affordable houses. If you go to South Africa, you see a chain of houses, 2 bedrooms and a hall, chamber and a hall for the people. We could have done that, couldn't we? Then we say, what? We are in Doomsor, and without identifying what the real causes of the Doomsor are, we just make it a political recitation. There's doomsday, there's days, and we create songs and dance about it. Without drilling down to see that, look, once upon a time, we had the benevolence of the Americans to give us money to be given to the ECG for the distribution sector, because now we had then solved the generation problem, and what was left was distribution. Out of our own nuances, out of our own, to quote the word of Amawu, that out of our own fraud, we as a Ghanaians, as a collective, as our own collective actions, we lost that compact. And I remember on many occasions here and on media, oh, we are sovereign Ghanaians, Americans can take their money. You remember that? We are. So when you take such a policy decision,
right,
and implement it, and there is a general problem with your electricity, who do you blame? Then we talk about the indicators included health, isn't it? Indicated health.
Access to health care.
Access to health.
Yeah.
And health is the number one problem every government should seek to resolve before that, after that, education. Because when you don't have a healthy community, nobody can go to school, isn't it? Go to Kolebu. Go and see the current structure of Kolebu. Go and see the current situation of a Konfanochi hospital. Right? And then we leave them. Instead of that, we take a policy option that will build 101 more hospitals. That's what we do.
Yeah, to improve access.
Just to improve access.
Yes.
But if you have an old car and you get some money, either you discard the car or you repair it before you decide to buy a new one. Okay? So that's our policy option as a country. We decided that ignore Kolebu and then build 110 more hospitals.
Right.
And then a hospital is not just a structure. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes.
The hospital is the structure, the equipment, and the human beings that are working there. So we are where we are, not because of anything but policy options and choices.
Okay.
I am ending by saying that once upon a time in this country, everything was somebody's fault. Everything was somebody's fault. Today, everything is either COVID, Ukraine, or it wasn't my fault. That is where my problem is. But does this all solve the problem we have? No, it doesn't.
Okay.
The problem, I wanted to, okay, can I?
Yeah, please land on that point so that I can come back to Michael because of the time.
The challenges we have as a country, no country is waiting for us. Are you following me? Nobody is waiting for us. We have a choice to dig deeper into the trench or do something about it. As a country, as people who have to go and queue from 7 o'clock to whatever time, we have a choice. And the choice is about what the individuals, who they are, their credibility, right? That's what we were saying. Their credibility, past record, and the plans we have for us. It's not about me fighting and now because he disagrees with what I'm saying or he does. It's not about that. It's not about you talking about butterfly or MDC. It's about pragmatism. How we resolve the matter we have pragmatically. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Let me come back to you, for the next 2 minutes to round up on the issue.
Thank you. I just want to address a few, misconceptions thrown out there. So Nana Fredo has sought to attack the validity of this report. And I think, some of his questions about coverage and even the kind of indicators they looked at, it's untenable, it's unacceptable. This is a report that is sanctioned by the Human Development Initiative, Global Human Development Initiative.
I think we was asking questions about, the various the various metrics that were used to come out with the reports.
It's not in his place to do that. This has been
on the integrity of the. I think by and large he agrees with the report.
No,
Nana.
No, but
I said it at the end of my statement. I said clearly that. You asked for it.
Yes, but to begin,
didn't you ask me? No, Lantam, don't do that again. It is not right.
No, it's my time. It's my
you
2
asked
minutes.
me a question.
And
I'm responding now. You're telling me I shouldn't answer.
I think you've answered. I'll come back to you.
Don't do that.
I'll come back to you.
If the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative and the United Nations Development Program have come out with metrics, I mean, come on, cut them some slack. They are authorities in these things. The UNDP, which Alan Chematin has worked at the very top, has sanctioned these indicators, and it's global. Everyone is using. India has done it. Ghana started ours, I think, in 2010. So please, it's not a matter of the indicators. Nana has a penchant of shifting blames away from the government, his people, his family and friends, to culture. He has a way of doing it, which is very, it's not a progressive way of looking at issues. The politics and leadership determine everything. You can begin to discuss culture, and when you know that all these policies, all these state capture, when it comes to why must graduates pay monies before they can get jobs to do. Look at food inflation now. These are all signs of a mismanagement caused by these guys in the helm of affairs. You can't begin to shift blame to culture, and when I see somebody and his MPP or NDC, won't I help? No. The bigger question is, how have you been recruiting people into security services, into all these government agencies? When was the last time you saw an ad on a public job opening? They don't do it. There's state capture. It's about who knows the next MP, who knows Nana Fredua, who knows somebody in the Jubilee House. That is the order we have now. And these are what continue to widen the gap. We've continuously paid lip service to closing the inequality gap. And I think we should be honest, sincere with ourselves and hit the problems head on, address them head on. Alan Chematin, like I said, he's been at the head of the UNDP. When they needed someone to run Enterprise Africa to open jobs and job creation schemes across Africa, he was the head. Now he said he's going to start something here in Ghana. He's going to engineer an enterprise economy. And that's the whole point of the launch we're having today. And I want to even invite Nana Fredua and my senior here. You should come.
Me there.
And come and no, Nana, there's no disrespect.
Total disrespect.
You should come and then, let's think about more progressive ways to change the things in Ghana, to change affairs here. Okay. Because we are not building a country. So far, we are building, a nation where only cronies and people in family and friends get to enjoy the national cake. Right. That's not it.
All right. Nana Fredua, let me bring you in now. Nana, please, kindly,
no, go ahead.
Kindly respond.
I can take the time.
No. Kindly, you had your time because I knew I was come to Nana Fredua. That is why I decided to allow you time to make your point, so that Nana also has time to make his point, so that we are fair to everybody.
And would you give me also a chance?
Oh yes, I will give you a little time to also.
Go ahead, relax.
Lantam, let's move on, please.
Oh, Nana, don't do that.
No, I'm saying let's move on. Let's move on. You see, I'm tired of this type of language because I've been at it. This whole thing. Sam, you and I haven't been around for just 5 minutes. We cannot continue to talk like this and get results. This language is not new.
You don't want people to be responsible for their actions.
Michael, please.
You see what I'm saying?
He keeps addressing me.
Just allow him to make his point.
When you mentioned my name 3 or 4 times, who were you addressing? Why do you think we don't know how to speak English?
Address the issue.
I said, this type of approach does not resolve problems in Ghana.
We are frustrated.
Is the question on the table about where somebody has worked?
Of course.
The suffering in Savannah or Ashanti or all the other regions, as highlighted in the report, which at the end of my statement I said very clearly in clear, simple English, is a good report and requires us to pay more attention, and did not denigrate anything about the report. How somebody is able to turn it around is another. Does it require qualifications about where people have worked? Lantam, are we looking for answers? Please, let Sam get his...
Ambassador, let me come to you now finally on this matter.
I think we both, three of us have agreed
Just,
that we have problems in this country.
Yes.
We have agreed. The solution is how to resolve it.
Yes.
And my take is that going forward, our policy options must be directed at solving problems instead of creating problems. All right? Over the last couple of years, I am not so sure that we have looked at our policy options well. Because, for example, if you want to resolve or reverse import-based economy, what you do is to industrialize yourself also and create import substitution organization. Madam, how much haven't we spent on tax exemptions and whatever on some companies who agreed to participate in our program of industrialization, which we call one district, one factory? All right? We as a people decided that we want to have a policy of one district, one factory. We spent good money at that. What are the results? Who is doing the evaluation of that policy to see or determine how that policy had reversed, slowed down our import economy? All right? We started with oil for gold, or gold for oil. Oil for gold.
Gold for oil.
Gold for oil.
Yes.
Who is doing the evaluation to see that we are achieving the aim? You see, Dana, myself, all of we have done a lot of policy work, isn't it? If you throw up a policy and it doesn't resolve a problem, you reverse or cancel the program. Right?
Yes.
The master objective of the policy for gold for oil was to reduce the rate of depreciation of our currency. And also, young man, is that not the case? The policy oil for gold.
Yeah.
Gold for oil or gold for oil.
The rising prices of fuel. Yes.
Since we launched that program, who has found out the reason why fuel prices still keep going up? Who has done that?
Okay.
You see, who is doing the evaluation of, we've implemented Ghana card, right? Ghana card. So, what is the essence of the introduction of Ghana card? For tax purposes, isn't it? Broadening the tax work net, formalizing the informal sector. 23 or so years after that introduction, what has been the effect?
All right. So these are critical questions that we need to be asking.
It is only by answering these critical questions that you can have a policy that solves a problem.
Right.
So let me final end.
Very well.
You have accommodation problems, right? For workers and directors. You spend $2 million to build Saglami houses. Granted, without admitting, you say some people have been corrupt. Are you following me?
I am.
So, buildings that are about 75%, according to some report I have read, some of the buildings were 75% complete, with tiles and electricals ready for the rest. You come to, we as a people decide that no, because of the so-called fraud or whatever it is of a few people, let the houses be there.
Right.
And for 7 to 8 years, we have allowed the buildings to rot. People have ransacked it because that was our policy option as a country. I'm not blaming anybody, but that's the policy option that we had. You see, my own hometown, Commander, somebody was foolish enough, stupid enough to decide that, excuse my French in a way, to say that, look, we are encouraging our pharmaceutical industries to come up. And so what is their major constraint? It is sugar, industrial sugar. So the person fraudulently put up a sugar factory, fraudulently, yeah. I'm qualifying my words so that nobody calls me that some say the factories were fraudulently built. Now we come to a certain stage, and then we say that no, the factory should have caused this instead of that, and for that reason, the factory should be there for 8 years. Meanwhile, the money you have used is not your money, right? You have.
But that's not
Okay.
accurate. That's not accurate. Let me.
Can I finish?
Can I finish? All right, very well.
Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish my point? Can I finish my point?
Ambassador, just
Can I finish
we
my
need to
point?
move on.
I
We
am
need to
saying
move on
that
to the next issue because
I am saying
think
that
we spend far too much time on this particular issue.
I'm saying
so
that it
let's
was
just
our policy
move on to the
decision.
next issue.
It was our policy decision. I'm not talking about who has done what or who has
I mean,
not
with
done.
the issues of the Commander Sugar Factory, there were quite a number of issues, which
I
were
am not
raised
saying
about
that.
the factory
I am not
functioning
saying.
and all
Look,
of that. And
if
so
you
they
wanted
wanted
to
look
debate
into it.
a commander sugar factory,
But
I
we
would
don't-
I was the ambassador to India. I would let you know.
Yes,
what you
but
have. I'm saying that
we are not getting into that.
If we had segregated the challenges from what we have done as a country, taking loan to build, and attempted to resolve the problem, would have had sugar by now.
Okay,
That's
all right,
what I
very
mean.
well.
You know about
Thank
who
you.
have done what.
Thank
And
you very much, Ambassador.
all my submissions, you know that I've positioned myself in the policy.
Yes, you've done that. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Let's move on to the next issue. The president of the National House of Chiefs and Omahini of the Seshi, Arianso Ojiahohwo JB the second. He's cautioning traditional leaders to be circumspect in the engagement of politicians. He said that political campaign season, has started and politicians would be calling on them, as they tour the country and all of that, and we've already begun to see that happen. So he's asking the chiefs to be tactful in their interactions with the aspirants and to be mindful of the utterances. The president of the National House of Chiefs explained that as chiefs, they only had one vote, just like other electorates. And in his admonition, it's coming in the wake of the endorsement of former President GHOne Mohammed, by the chief of Breman during a public lecture at the Christian Service University last Thursday, and I mean, we always see these things during political season. Nana Fredia, let me come to you on this one. The call that the president of the National House of Chiefs is making, how crucial or essential will you say a call like this is, given a provision that people always refer to in our constitution that chiefs are not supposed to engage in active party politics, and all of these things. But we see chiefs endorsing one candidate or another during political campaign season.
Well, it's something that, it's a truism. I mean, we're always having to repeat it.
Yeah.
Because every now and then you find one traditional authority or the other saying things that are deemed to be supportive of a candidate. First of all, I tend to think that we walk a very fine line between what we demand of traditional authorities and what traditional authorities can, should, or may do. It's difficult for you to come to my little homestead village and if I have requirements and I lay them out to you, and then a few years later you come back and those requirements have been met, it will be difficult for me not to shower praises on you. It's a matter of fact. So we walk that fine line. So because I shower praises on you, does that necessarily mean that I support, I'm making an endorsement for you, unless I state clearly, vote for X again? If I don't, and I say, hey, when you came, you said you'd do this, you've done it. You've done very well. Is that an endorsement that we should be worried about? I think traditional authorities walk a very fine line in this, and I think that we're very cruel to them when it comes to that. we need to be very clear in our minds. If we agree that they shouldn't be seen to be partisan, they can be political, but not partisan. That's the thing. The thing is about the partisanization of your position. So they can be political, but not partisan. If we agree that that is the truth, then when you've come, Lantam, you're from Party X, or you're independent guy, whatever, and I say, the last time we spoke, I asked for this because you have authority and capacity to do it, and you got it done. Thank you very much. We should not read it as a partisan statement. You may read it as a political statement, because one used the influence to get the other to do something, and the other used the influence to get the thing done.
Yeah.
So those are matters of fact. Now, this matter of the constitutional requirement, it is there.
But what about in the situation where, okay, it's not like giving a commendation, but it's maybe a candidate who comes and then the chief goes like, I like your candidature and I'm encouraging my people to look at the things you are saying and make an informed decision, you know, almost sort of telling the candidates that I support you and I'm going to get my people to vote for you. I mean, we've seen and heard some chiefs also do that.
And that's the fine line I talked about. That is very difficult, because you see, what you just said is that in this your submission, you said I think people should look at and make an informed decision without that final word that says vote for X.
Vote for, because I mean, in the chief whom we are talking about at the Christian Service University, for example, he was a guest of honor. Right, and
who was that? Where?
At the Christian Service University, we're talking about the chief of Bremine, Bafo Kote Kutin Sraman II. Okay. You know, during a public lecture at the Christian Service University last Thursday, which former President Mohammed addressed, he was a guest of honor, and he described former President Mohammed as the incoming president. You know, and went on to say that I believe that every one of the words that I have spoken, he is coming back, you know, as president of the country. So this is like a tacit endorsement of a political party candidate.
And I'm saying that it's a very fine line for them. And I obviously would be worried for them. It's a space that's difficult. It's difficult. As far as the President of the National House of Chiefs is concerned, I think that he's done his job. He's cautioned everybody, he's told everybody to be wary of what you say and what you do. Depending on who you are and what you do, when it's time and there's accounting, you'll have to account for yours. You've just referred to somebody. On the day when it's time to account, people will refer to that. You see what you said, see what it's cost you or what it has gained you. Is it good for us as a collective? Is it good for the institution? I think people need to be cautious about it. I like the caution by the President of the National House of Chiefs. I think that Nananum, Tobi, Nime, everybody should be constantly reminded of their responsibility first to their stools, skins, of which belongs to the people they lead. So you must always be conscious of that, always. And don't forget that these leaders are human beings. So every now and then you're bound to get a slip up here and there. But the fundamental, on the score sheet, on average, they do quite well, you know. It's the few who might deviate, whose comments come to the attention of the public. But otherwise, honestly, in my years of campaigning, when you've gone to a traditional authority, I don't like to call them chiefs, and I like to say Nana or when you've gone to their palace, they're supposed to receive you. And in the reception, because you're coming to say, I'm asking for permission to be able to roam your lands and talk to your people. That's Ghana. That's our cultural system. So you go and do that. Then he says, oh, you're welcome. Oh, I've heard of you. You're such a great person. You've done so well. I wish you well. Then we get worried about whether that person has been endorsed or not. Meanwhile, that same Nana or Ni, then the next candidate comes and does the same thing and gets the same response. We don't recognize that the Ni has been consistent. But then when that one person says, as for you, you are the incoming president, then that person suddenly is picked on. I think that we should just leave things as they are and just constantly remind the Nananum of this. We probably should analyze why it is important that they don't take political, partisan positions on matters. And if you allow me quickly, it is because now it has been left to the people to decide. So if you go and you are for all the people, so if you go and take one side, and that side doesn't win, the side that won from the people might begin to even disrespect you. Don't do that. That's the point of it.
Right.
The politics is we need XYZ in Savannah region. In some, I don't know any village there readily of it. Is that in Savannah? I don't know. But
I think that's in the northern region.
Yes. So yeah, in Savannah, and then you come and then I say, look at these statistics. What's going on? Where? We need to get results. What are your solutions to it? That's political. When there's no, this is the person to vote for, you solve the problem. That's partisan. And that's where we need to be very clear. And I think that the caution is important. We should constantly remind, and I wish that journalists would also join that argument,
right,
so that there's a constant appreciation of how it solves our problems.
All right. Ambassador, let me come to you now, on this. This issue of it always comes up every political season, and there's always a caution, but
I'm on all fours with what Nana I just said. Just to add that. You see, when we were writing the Constitution at the Consultative Assembly, and all the powerful chiefs in Ghana were there, apart from Utufo and Anoche. No, Anoche was there. Kuntun Kuruku was there. And when we got to this vast question of whether chiefs can do politics, they were the most loudest, saying that because of historical antecedent, what chiefs have suffered into politics, no chief, in fact, we even watered it down to paramount chiefs, but they said no chief should be doing politics, partisan or whatever. And their reasons were very cogent. You represent the people living now, you represent the people past, and maybe you represent the people in future.
Yeah.
So you should be seen as a unifier. And the evidence is clear now because of the nature of our toxic politics now. Last time I heard one radio station, what Utufo said to Bawumia. And the young man did not hold any breaks at all. Pam, that's something in it. I decided that let me take a look, read what the Utufo had said. And in fact, what Utufo had told Bawumia had nothing at all to do with what the young man was saying. But look at that young man who may have just left school a year or two. Throwing stones at His Royal Majesty. This is not the reason why we say chief should not do politics. Because you allow anybody to eat in your plate. Okay? The practice is becoming one too many recently. And it's across board. I have heard chiefs endorsing John Mahama. I have heard chiefs endorsing Bawumia. But the question is it right? And it is not right.
It isn't.
Because it's an affront to the Constitution, Article 2761, who says no chief shall be engaged in politics. As to whether it is partisan or not, the Constitution doesn't make. But the point is that, look, if you ask for development for your area, is that bad? It is not. But if you say, as for you, you are the divine choice. Recently, you saw a case of Wuntumi in Kumasi, right? And one of the chiefs said, I was in the party meeting. So now Tufo told him, no, first and foremost, you shouldn't have been at that meeting.
Yeah. I think that chief was reprimanded by Tufo.
I followed that.
Yes.
He said, no, you first and foremost, you should not have been at that meeting. And look at the crisis you wanted to create out of your misconceptions, because what he carried to the palace about whom to misconduct were proven not to be the right thing. That's one also the reason why chiefs should not do politics. Now, some people have argued that the chief also have freedom of expression and of right. The chief also, they vote. Yes, you can vote. But it's the same constitution that bestows on you the freedom of right. That also prohibits you as a chief from participating in partisan politics. So, whereas you can speak freely, whereas where you can move freely, the constitution prohibits you, a chief, from active politics. And any breach thereof is an offense. You see what I mean? I want to be sure that chiefs will remain the dignified royalties that we know them to be. Recently, there are very interesting developments in our chieftaincy space. One, the persons that are being installed and skinned as chiefs are very progressive people, you know, and enlightened. I'm not saying that those illiterate chiefs are not good enough. They have their native intelligence and it's good enough.
So why are you calling them illiterate?
I haven't said illiterate.
You just did.
I said enlightened chiefs.
And then you said those who are illiterate.
Those who have not gone to school. Those who have not gone to school cannot be said, you know, to be illiterate of what they are doing. Do you get what? Do you get what I'm saying? Because if you are illiterate, doesn't mean that you don't know what you are doing.
Said it.
There are chiefs who have not gone to school who are also up there.
Yeah.
The advancement I'm talking about is that lettered men and women are now finding themselves into that space, and it makes things a bit clear. I've also seen a mode of unification among the chiefs, right? Recently, I've seen there were Asantehene and the Gamanche coming together. I've seen Gamanche, Asantehene, Awomefia, and it's positive development.
Yeah.
But sort of saying anything, I do not subscribe to any chief, whether big or small, endorsing a political party candidate. Right. It is not right.
Okay.
You know, because if you do, immediately you divide your town, village, or city into political fields, and will suffer what we know. Nana, what NDC opposed, like Lantam said, on His Excellency's request for decentralization was not against the election of these chief executives. But
what's that got to do with the topic?
But you
said let him tell you when you can speak about that. When he finishes,
you want to make that clarification.
Yes,
but I think I made that
the
clarification
to confirm is that.
But I think I already made that clarification.
The politicization
of
it.
Yes, and that was what divided them. I think I made that clarification. But thank you very much, Ambassador. Michael, let me
make a comment.
Let me come to you now, Michael. Yes.
All right. Thank you. So I agree, you know, to some extent with what my seniors have said, except to add that, look, chiefs are supposed to be custodians of true judgment, all right? And so that is where they are shielded from these contempt and, you know, attacks by the laws that say they shouldn't delve into the political arena. But I think as major players, major stakeholders in a development framework, they are supposed to indulge in you know, all kinds of development agenda. To the extent that the issue they are attaching themselves with borders on development of their people, then they must involve themselves. They must comment. But the problem comes when their comments emanate from a point of inducement, you know, parochial interest. Then we have a problem. Because if you go to the typical villages, chiefs pay school fees. I run projects that chiefs were like the key drivers of our outcomes. And so if you want to take them out of this equation, then it just doesn't work. I think they should be able to, with that aura of true judgment in their personality and, you know, portfolio they handle, they should be allowed to pass judgments. They should be able to tell us, look, the 32 years of MPP NDC has not worked. We should be able to, chiefs should be allowed to, you know, tell us. It's just like the pastors. You just can't take them out. These are voices of conscience in society. And you see, the moment we begin to create some of these handicaps around them and, you know, the exercise of their discretion and powers, then we cause a problem.
But are we minded of a constitutional provision? I mean, if there's a constitutional provision, it's the law. And so, I mean, we shouldn't be going contrary to it, should we? Ambassador
is a lawyer, so if I'm wrong, Ambassador, please, you can correct me. I think the spirit of that provision is not to gag them. It's not to stop them entirely from, you know, engaging in development communication, speaking the truth to power. No, I don't think so. It is to show them.
We've had many chiefs speak truth to power.
Exactly. Look at Asante. He does an excellent job.
All of them, they do that.
You know, he like he told Alhaji Bawumia recently, you know, where you fault, where you couldn't do right, tell the people how you are going to fix it. I think there are excellent ways of going about it, rather than being so confrontational with political leaders to create problems with their followers. They are, you know, chiefs are, like I said, custodians of wisdom and truth. And so they should have a way to go about these things without, you know, attracting for themselves the correspondent attacks from their followers of political fanatics and followers of political leaders. They should be allowed to express themselves. They should be able to speak truth to power. They should be able to demand development projects for their people. If it doesn't come, they have every right to call, you know, the people out, to say MPP and NDC have failed us. Yeah.
Very well. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's quickly, in the next few minutes, quickly in the next few minutes, deal with this next issue. But Nana Fredio, I wanted to say something.
Yeah, just quickly.
Yes.
It's important. You know, when Sam was making his giving his submission, I interjected with the matter of literacy, the word. It's important that we're constantly showing regard and respect to those positions, because they are the embodiment of who we are. So it's crucial to understand that it isn't going into a classroom that makes you an enlightened person. It is appreciating how the world is and how you execute your work as a result of that. After all, why? Those traditional authorities who now started allowing schools to be created in their spaces, and who themselves hadn't been to school, you won't consider that an enlightened person. So we need to be very conscious and cautious about that. The last point is, the constitutional provision thing is very clear about who they refer to as, to use your word which I don't like, chief, is. So, because if you went with how Sam was pushing it, then Mr. Mahama and the Guvado and Bawumia should all not be running for office, because they've all been installed in one place or the other by somebody. So you see, there's clarity. You see what I'm saying? So there's clarity about who is
Or who's the chief?
exactly, and therefore,
Well, if you're a stool or a skin, as in
That kind of.
but that's the point I'm making. That
okay, if I have the
you
chance,
need that's the point I'm making, which is don't make it a Subings Day because there are it's very specific.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you are not a landed ruler, in other words, you oversee land and therefore people, you are not hit by that. But when you do, then you are.
Yeah.
If you're advisor to Nana Lantam, and therefore you are to Nana Lantam's territory, Lantam mine, how is that a challenge? You know what I'm saying? Compared to
Yeah.
So that's how it works out.
Okay.
That was just for clarity. It's
All right.
not
Very well.
Yeah.
Very well. Let's deal with our last issue. The MPP, the New Patriotic Party, has not chosen, or should I say, the presidential candidate Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has not chosen a running mate yet. And there is this lobbying and, do I call it jostling? On the front pages of many newspapers, you see, Natoshi, for running mates, people are pushing that agenda. There are people who are pushing.
I don't know why they don't want to mention it.
People are pushing.
No, you should mention
Nana Fredia, running mates. I was running mates for Dr. Bawumia. There are those who are pushing.
Friends of Nana Fredia.
Like they should be saying, after all, he's Sam P. Ali's friend. Why can't he be one?
Yeah, so I mean, would you like to be running mates to Dr. Bawumia?
No, I can't.
Why not?
Why not?
I think that we need to be truthful and realistic about capacities and you know, and when capacity is not necessarily whether you are able to read and write. It's about whether you will be endeared to the situation.
To the people. Yeah.
To the situation. So
all of those conversations are covered up. People say Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh stands tall. I mean, we've heard the names of Dr. Yawase Duchum, the education minister. We've heard Akusia Fremont Pario say the chief of staff. And all of that. Ambassador, I see you smiling. I mean, you already have a running mate, right? Professor Nana Jane. I mean, are you bothered about who would be the running mate for the MPP? Or it makes no difference to the NDC who Dr. Bawumia chooses?
And I thank you for the clarification about my talk about the literacy matter.
Right.
I didn't intend, and I retracted.
Exactly.
I didn't intend to say that those who have not gone to school, but by the addition or infusion of those who have gone to school, documenting all these issues make the chieftaincy easier.
Stronger.
Ordinarily, I wouldn't have commented on matters that concern the NPP because as I'm to ecto atonsufua and fan carrier form, but the person who will be selected as a vice presidential candidate is a potential vice president in both cases or three cases, whatever the case may be. My challenge, though, has been we are selecting Nana Fredia Ajiman because he's from Eastern region or because he's from Ashanti region. And in this particular case, it's about Ashanti region. Because the NPP draws a lot of votes from the Ashanti region. And therefore, the vice president must necessarily come from the Ashanti region.
It's a consideration that they have.
Well, let me develop my point. I would want to see the qualities of the person, first and foremost, and above all, than where he comes from. You understand? So that's why I said, why not mentioning Nana? Because I know their qualities. Nana has done some wonderful work. No, people are not appreciating. When the National Theatre was down, they were bashing him. But now that he's coming, and nobody's appreciating it. You see, I want to.
Sam, thank you very much. Very humbling.
Yes. So yes,
I appreciate it.
I told you even before we came here. Yeah.
Thank you very
much. When people do things and it's right, appreciate it. I want to see NPP saying that we have got somebody with these leadership qualities, irrespective of where he comes from. Because our constitution eschews tribalism. as the basis for doing whatever we do. Ethnicity. So, in the end, you create a bottleneck for this country in the arena of choices. That's my challenge with the MPP's problem they're having now. It would be good that by a certain period, Dr. Bawumia is allowed to choose his running mate, so that the options will not be for the party or the parties, but the options will be available and open now to the broad spectrum of Ghanaians to choose from. You understand? The long delay may be causing a lot of anxiety and creating unnecessary animosity among even peer groups.
You think the MPP has taken too long, or Dr. Bawumia has taken too long to choose his running mate?
No, it is not the MPP that has to choose the running mate.
I mean, Dr. Bawumia.
Dr. Bawumia?
Yes.
Who chooses?
Of course, but you know that the MPP will have an input. I mean, that's...
But...
I mean, the Council of Elders...
They would have. That is why
they have
Dr. Bawumia would have to be fast in selecting his choices to whoever has the authority to support him to do that. But primarily, the responsibility is that of Dr. Bawumia.
Yes.
Okay. Is it the case that he has not presented any name to the Council of Elders, or he has presented names which they have rejected, or the vice versa? That, as for me, I'm an outsider. My mentor says Zufiasam. As far as I'm concerned, we in the NDC have selected our vice presidential candidate. We are doing underground consultations, because the challenges that we have as a country now is not about populism. It's not about slogans. It's not about just saying, hey, no. We need a pair of capable hands. Whether it's Alan Chamati and Dr. whatever, Busakara, is it? Busakara. Or Alan Chamati and somebody. Or Dr. Bawumia and somebody. Or Mohammed and Nana. What this country needs above all is a pair of capable, trusted hands to be able to take us from where we are and move us a bit forward.
Okay.
That's my submission.
Okay. Michael.
Not that to be last.
Are you no, Nana has to be last because it's his party. Are you looking at, are you interested in who becomes
Michael,
the running mate? Are you interested in who becomes the running mate for the MPP?
Well, to the extent that whoever they choose, confirms, the usual patronizing of people either in my region, Ashanti, or other regions. They've not, improved the livelihood of people there. I think it concerns us a lot. And so I want to touch on a few things. And Lantam, why are they using the NIB to, run surveys for them? It's complete abuse of power. Seriously.
You haven't been around.
No, I don't have to be along. I don't have to be Methuselah to speak to these issues. So, please, you see,
on that particular point, just for your information.
Nana, please,
it's
you
up to
will
you
have
to
your
decide.
turn. You will have your turn, please.
No way.
You will.
No way.
Lantam, this is my time.
America, India, UK, Germany.
Nana, you have your time.
No way.
Nana, you have your time.
No
This is
way.
bullying.
Is this an illegal
This is
law?
bullying.
Nana,
All right, very well.
Nana,
Very
you
well.
have
Nana.
your time.
Very well.
Take
Very
2
well.
minutes from his time and give it to him.
Yes, have your.
It's
I mean, but if the NIB does that, I mean, the NIB, matters of national security and all of that, some of these issues come up.
No, but
I remember when the national security minister, came up, he spoke in parliament about, certain things that are happening if the government doesn't take care A, B, and C. So, I mean...
But those things the national security minister spoke about bordered on the security of the country because of the hardship that was going on. I think that was around COVID and all that. But most important is the fact that, look, they have a very bad candidate, indecisive, incompetent, clueless, completely cut off from the problems Ghanaians face. And so that's one of the main reasons why it's become so difficult for him to choose a running mate, because now they are looking for someone who can neutralize his negative outlook as a candidate. And I wish them well. I wish the MPP well. Yeah.
Who would you like them to choose?
You see, whatever I say has no effect on who they choose.
Yeah, but indulge us.
No, it's not in my place to even tell. They have fine people there. They have people, competent people, you know, people making the waves, people the international community recognize. But funny enough, like their names are not out there.
Like who?
Well, since you are pushing, I can look at people like Nana Fredia, who has transformed the national theater for us. I can look at. I can look at
friends for Nana.
Yes, friends for Nana Fredia. I can look at a distinguished lady like the Ghana Enterprises Agency boss. What's her name? Miss Kosi Yankee. She's done a good job there.
You think she'll be a fine?
She'll be a fine candidate to compensate, you know, to all the damages. What's his name? Alhaji Bawumia has done, you know, and there are others. There are many others, but the kind of people they are presenting, it makes me wonder if they really want to make a change, or it's just politics as usual. Okay. Trying to, you know, so they have people like the housewives, like Ashanti region is our housewife, it's our stronghold. Whoever we bring, the moment the person is from there, we win them. No, that is flawed. I think things have changed. Ghanaians are beginning to discern more into what's in politics for them, what has been your record in terms of your stewardship over the years. And they've come to the conclusion that the NPP, NDC have failed. And so Alan Kyerematen and his great transformational plan we are launching today is the most credible option for us.
Together with Dr. Abu Sakara.
Yeah, he's a member of the alliance. Yeah, but we will choose our running mates at the right time. The alliance will choose someone.
Nana Fredia, I mean, does it bother you that
friends of Nana Fredia?
Dr. Bawumia doesn't have a running mate
Lantam, did
up
you
till
listen
now?
to him? He condemns Dr. Bawumia and tells us that Dr. Bawumia is indecisive and incompetent because he hasn't chosen a vice presidential candidate.
Not because of
that. But then
he
thinks that his candidate in the right time.
No, let me give you why I said
what kind of flip-flop commentary are we being subjected to? Why? Why are we making us? Why making it appear as if those of us who listen don't have the sense of?
I don't know what he said was in relation to Vice President Bawumia.
His management of the economy.
But as for him and his candidates, they are all right. Mate, well, let's move on. Now, here's you asked me. Personally,
yes. Are you not bothered?
No.
Is it not too late?
No. Let me. First of all, I have a very, very different view, and this is Nana Fredia speaking based on experience, based on knowledge, based on having learned from other places and all of that. When you've put it all together, there are some real questions that we should be asking ourselves. But let's answer your first question, which is it spending too much time? One, the party gave him all the time in the world, for good reason. And I think he should take as much of it as possible. If I had my way, and I could advise Dr. Bawumia, I'd tell him, wait till 2 months to election. There's no rush.
2 months to election?
Yes, there's no rush.
I mean, doesn't he have to choose a candidate for
Lantam,
people
there's no rush.
become familiar with, for that person to endear himself
so
to
that the person will be on the ballot paper? That's the question. So that the person will be on the ballot paper? Is that what it would lead to? The person will be, so that the person be on the ballot paper? It won't happen. That is not our electoral system. Our electoral system does not say vote for X and
but doesn't it have an influence on how people vote? The person,
I actually don't think so. Which is my next.
Doesn't it have an influence?
Which is my next question. I don't think so. Let's do a run through of elections from when we started having a vice presidential candidate. You know when that started, right? In 79. Go and check out the history and find out whether Dr. Liman's election was partly because I think it was Dr. de Graaf Johnson was his vice presidential candidate. Had nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. I don't think that if they had done a survey at the time, they'd find that more than 5% was a consideration of the vote. And I'm talking of 5% of consideration of a person's decision to vote, not the vote itself, of a person's decision to vote. That these are my 3 items. One of them is the vice presidential choice. When you do the analysis, break it down. After that, we came to the 92 Constitution, thanks to the NDC's J.J. Rawlings as the PNDC. Then we finally come to a constitutional. Mr. Rawlings chooses Nenyin Kensen Aka. It was a
coalition,
an alliance of parties. What was the cost to us? First of all, that election was rigged. That's what the rest of us thought. So that's a matter of there. And in that rigging...
Perception.
Oh, why? That's not
opinion.
That's not the discussion. Don't interject. Good. And so that's what happened.
Rigged.
That's what the MPP felt happened.
It's not only the MPP. But I'm saying that's not the point for me. The point is, in that election, do we honestly believe that Nenyin Kensen Aka was the reason Rawlings won? He won because of all XYZ things. Come the second election, he wasn't the candidate because they had that tiff. You remember? It was Professor Mills. Professor Mills was not a political person. In any scheme, he was not. His image and thing were not vote winners. They were just a calming of the environment. Do you honestly believe that if it were somebody else, Mr. Rawlings would have lost that election? He would not have lost it because we know the technical details of how he won the election. We know the technical details.
So you're saying it's same for Kufuor and Aliyu Mahama?
You want to tell me that Mr. Kufuor needed Mr. Aliyu Mahama's image to win?
Sure.
It's not true.
And Dr. Bawumia, people say Dr. Bawumia was very instrumental, for
Do you know the difference between Dr. Bawumia and all the other vice presidents? Mr. Mahama, when he was coming on board, do you know why Professor Mills, when he won his election, it wasn't because Mr. Mahama was on the ticket. The depth of support for Professor Mills had nothing to do with Mr. Mahama. Then, when Mr. Mahama became, so as far as I'm concerned, he contributed nothing to Professor Mills' success.
That's good, as far as you are concerned.
Then, I've been talking as far as I'm concerned from the beginning. Then, Mr. Mahama himself, when he came to become president, it was on the sympathy vote of Professor Mills' death, not his own capacity. And when he now went and ran, he lost. Which means that he himself, he is not a winning candidate. But that's another matter. Now, it comes to Dr. Bawumia. Dr. Bawumia gets 208. Dr. Bawumia's effect on Akufo-Addo's victory or loss can be measured as non-existent. Because one, Akufo-Addo's popularity was extremely... Don't forget, there were two elections in the 208 election. There was the, what do you call that one? The main election, and then the
one in time, yes.
Yeah. It had nothing to do with Dr. Bawumia.
Okay.
Dr. Bawumia now builds himself an image, makes himself a real activist in the following elections, 2012 and 2016. Real, he gets involved, he goes down, he raises people, he builds people. So he's the only vice presidential candidate who could now be able to effectively say that he had an effect on the election.
Okay.
So, for me, as far as I'm concerned, he should take his time.
Okay.
If you listen to me, you wait 2 weeks.
All right, very well.
Very
well. We have to wrap it up here. Unfortunately, Ambassador, we